What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So as we head towards next generation in November with the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, there's still a few small things need to be ironed out. For example, the expandable storage options that we have. We, of course, know NVMe drives will go into the PlayStation 5 that we buy separately. But we also have that little memory card for the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S. Microsoft released a bunch of information yesterday, as well as pricing for the memory card. We're gonna go over that here today. Also, Amazon just decided, hey, let's tell everybody about our game streaming service, and it's certainly leaving Stadia in a weird position. Also, Super Mario 3D All-Stars had actual sales numbers released in Japan, and turns out did pretty well. Surprising, right? As always, guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below. And we're gonna start today with Tokyo Game Show and Nier Replicant 1.2247. And there's like 8 other digits after that. We, of course, had this revealed earlier this year, and it was really exciting to see it for people who are big fans of Nier. And now we know when it's coming out. They also told us that Nier Automata has now crossed 4.85 million units sold. That's big for Nier. That's huge, actually, because that's like mainstream status at that point. This is like how when Persona 5 hit those big sales numbers, we consider that going more mainstream. This is the same thing for Nier. Now they released this new trailer here, and it is coming out April 22nd for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in Japan, and then the following day, April 23rd, it will be available in the West on PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. So this is good news, because it means we don't have to wait months for it to come out, right? In the West, a lot of times we'll hear about some of these games that release first in Japan, and then we wait a while, like Yakuza Like a Dragon's coming out, this November. We've been waiting quite a while for that to show up in the West. Good to see it's only a day, and it's also gonna get a PC release in the West as well, which Nier Automata had a very strange PC port. It wasn't great, so I'm hoping that Nier Replicant is a better effort overall. We'll see, I guess, on that one. But good to hear. We don't have to wait too much longer, I guess, going into next year with April, and on top of that, it's only a day afterwards in the West, so good news. Also, it looks like the Nintendo Switch homebrew community is at it again. They think they're really cool with their local save backups, right, and all those really neat emulators and ROMs and stuff they can play on their system. Well, apparently they're also playing Grand Theft Auto 3. This was tweeted out here, this image, and yes, Grand Theft Auto 3 has been officially ported to the Switch by the homebrew community. MVG did a very good video around this, kind of talking about how it was possible, what was done to make this work. It is impressive stuff to have a community of people just say, oh, let's just port Grand Theft Auto to the Switch because Rockstar won't do it for some reason. It's a strange thing, isn't it? There's a lot of Switch systems out there right now. Big install base. Grand Theft Auto is pretty popular. We've even seen Saints Row just try their hardest to get on the Switch first, and they could have taken their time apparently, because not even Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Like, they could easily, I'm sure, take 3 or Vice City or San Andreas, maybe do a collection. Maybe just release San Andreas by itself. I mean, you have a really good game with San Andreas, a really good game with Vice City, an okay game with Grand Theft Auto 3, but like, it feels like there's a lot of money to be made, and they're not doing it. It's very strange. Remember those rumors for GTA 5? I mean, we're kind of still waiting on that, right? It's a weird thing, but there you go. The homebrew community, once again, will do what these companies won't. Oh, and if you still haven't played Doom Eternal, whether maybe you're waiting for the Switch version to pop up, or you saw it when it came out and you're like, I'll wait for a price drop, then you kind of forgot about it, good news, it is coming to Game Pass. So if you're a Game Pass subscriber, it'll just show up October 1st. It's also coming to Game Pass on PC just a little later this year. They didn't specify a date or time frame or anything, just a later 2020. This does feel like a reaction to the obvious acquisition of Microsoft, picking up Bethesda and ZeniMax. They're like, oh, we got Doom Eternal, throw it on Game Pass. I feel like this is something they've been planning for a little while now, and maybe they were just like, oh, let's go ahead and just drop it along with our announcement, because it's, obviously it's a good way to celebrate the announcement. Doom Eternal, it's good stuff. It is interesting that it's going to now show up into Game Pass before the port is even released on the Switch. I mean, it's a good game. People should check it out. And I mean, the fact that it's going to Game Pass, if you already have it, you might as well just download it and try it out. And then if you're on PC, you've got to wait a little longer. But I expect a lot of Bethesda games to show up here in Game Pass. It's just the deal isn't officially done yet. So this was clearly planned months ago, maybe, to come up to Game Pass anyway. But they've been talking about this acquisition apparently for over a year now. So good to see Doom Eternal there, and I'm sure more Bethesda games will follow. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're gonna start right away with the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. Had some controversy, right, before it came out, and then when it came out, and then data miners got to it, and it was all over the place, has the limited release, but let's see how it did. This is just in Japan. We'll go to the charts here. Starting at the top, surprise, Mario 3D All-Stars is right there, 210,136. Keep in mind, this came out on a Friday, so that would be what, Friday and Saturday performance, and these should be mostly physical. I think download cards are kind of counted, but this doesn't count like the eShop, for example. And then Ring Fit Adventure right below that at number 2, 48,826. That does continue to sell, and a lot of times it trends upwards as long as there is stock. When there's not stock, it drops down pretty bad, so it still seems kind of stock limited for the most part. Animal Crossing New Horizons, 32,097. That, by the way, is coming up on 6 million copies sold in just Japan. I think they're just running out of people to sell it to in Japan at this point. eFootball winning 11, 2021. Below that, Pro Baseball. Then we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Clubhouse Games 51, Azur Lane, Pokemon Sword and Shield, and then Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Moving over to hardware, the Nintendo Switch is at the top, 110,000. That is a jump from last week of 83,920. Something we would expect with Mario 3D All-Stars there out on the market. I'm sure they probably put some more Switches in stores because of that release. That, by the way, shows the Nintendo Switch just still rolling through this year, even compared to last year, with upward trends, and the lifetime over 15 million units sold in just Japan. It's impressive stuff. The 3DS had a massive jump, and I think this might have to do with just stock clear out, and of course, everyone rushing out now that the 3DS has officially been discontinued. Nintendo has now admitted that, but 5,272 copies. PlayStation 4, 1,801. The PS4 has had a drastic drop off since the PS5 has really started to pick up steam in advertising. Kind of makes sense. And then the Xbox One is at 31. So once again, I don't think it's too surprising to see Mario 3D All-Stars sell well. It's a collection of 3 good 3D Mario games that does include Sunshine, yes. It's a limited release, and keep in mind, these are just the physical sales. I mean, I do wonder how many people went out and grabbed it physically because they heard it was limited, and they're like, well, it just won't be on store shelves anymore. But keep in mind, it's also gonna be limited digitally, and there's a lot of people now, it's like 50-50 apparently on the Switch, who legitimately don't even want the cartridge. They just want to have the game on their Switch for traveling. So, hey, maybe people just rushed the digital storefront as well. Maybe they bought one of each. It's the way limited releases can work, that fear of missing out, right? Where you feel like you need both version. I mean, I have it digitally and physically as well, so it's not out of the question for that. And then, of course, the Switch saw a nice bump. By the way, the Switch is rolling towards 20 million units in Japan very quickly, because we're about to get into the holiday time, and that's where you see some crazy numbers pop up, especially when we get to Age of Calamity as an example, and maybe some Pokemon DLC. Yeah, things get kind of out of hand there in Japan, but shocking, right? Mario 3D All-Stars did pretty well there. Next up, let's talk about the Seagate storage expansion card for the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S. That little memory card that we saw initially where it plugs into the back and it adds 1 terabyte of storage that will match the internal speed of the NVMe SSD that is inside both the Series X and the Series S. Now, Microsoft put out a massive page of text answering different questions that were asked, but they also put this chart out right here that kind of goes over what you can play where. So, for example, you can see you can store your Xbox games across just a regular hard drive through USB 3.1 or that expansion card. And for the most part, you can still play Xbox One, Xbox 360, original Xbox games off of a typical 3.1 hard drive, that's fine. But when you start trying to play, of course, Series S, Series X, any of that, you have to just use that expansion card. But you can store your games for the Series X and the S on the hard drive. You will just have to then copy them to the internal storage on your system. And I do wonder if we take an enclosure, USB 3.1 enclosure, and we put an SSD in there, how fast it will actually be able to transfer. Because while these games are pretty large, right? If the transfer speed is fast enough, people might not mind just waiting, like just moving data back and forth. Yeah, it's an extra step, but if the price is correct to get like an SSD, like a 1 terabyte or even a 2 terabyte, it might work better, especially if these expansion cards kind of become limited, as some might be thinking, because they might not put out a ton of them even. But the pricing, let's talk about that real quick, because you can see the product page here that Microsoft put up, and yes, you're reading that right. $219.99. You can pre-order it now, and that is for that little 1 terabyte memory card looking thing. And when people walk into the stores and they see those, it's not gonna appear like it should be worth that much. Trust me, there's gonna be a lot of parents who are like, I'm paying $220 for something that's like this. It's just tiny. It's NVMe Gen 4 that typically is up there in price. If you look up like the new Samsung one we just talked about, right? That's what, $230, somewhere in there. So this falls right in line with those. It's just proprietary, which the one concern about that is there won't be any other competing brands, and they're just gonna keep it to Seagate. And there might not be other options of storage. Like, will we get a 2 terabyte one? Will we get a 512 gigabyte one, right? These are things that should work for the PS5 because we can choose our own NVMe drive as long as it falls in the right guidelines. We're kind of just stuck with this one card. That is a downside. I guess the upside would be there's little user error that can take place here. There's a slot on the back, seems to be slotted one way. You can pop it in. It's hot swappable, so you can just pop it right out, drop a new one in, and go. Whereas the PlayStation 5, it appears that we'll probably have to remove some sort of panel, pop it in, probably do some sort of firmware installation. We're not 100% sure on that, or it has to format in some way. Surely won't be hot swappable like this Xbox Series X or S one is. And then also keep in mind, that's almost the same price as a Series S. I mean, it's $220 for that, and then people are gonna look over and see the Series S, and that's $300. That's gonna be really funny when parents look around and realize that. So I guess it's more worth just getting the Series X if you feel like you need the Series S, but then you buy a memory card because that'll push you over that for only 500 gigabytes more of storage. So that's the one issue. The Series S is something you buy, I guess, and then think about that 1 terabyte card down the road. I wouldn't buy them together. I would just buy an X. Next up, let's talk about Amazon's game streaming service, Luna. Now, this appears to be more of a competitor to Stadia, but they do still mention Game Pass. They say themselves it's more than Stadia, but less than Xbox Game Pass. But it's gonna be a subscription service, so it's not going to go the route of Stadia, where you still subscribe, but then you have to also buy the games. That's the thing that keeps throwing people off. We look at these as being kind of like Netflix-like, right? Like the Game Pass is gonna be the Netflix of gaming because it's a subscription service. You're not just going in and buying each individual game and hope that the service sticks around, right? Monthly, you have a monthly fee that you pay, and then you get games that are just there. So let's take a look at this because they put out a full product page, and their selection of games isn't bad, but they are currently in like a beta phase where you have to be accepted in after requesting access. So you'll basically turn in some sort of application that goes over how fast your internet is. And right now it's in this testing phase where they want to see, all right, how can we do with our AWS server setup and all of this? But I mean, the selection of games doesn't seem too bad. Right now, you can see on the front, they have Control, Grid, Surge 2, Trails of Cold Steel 3, Yooka-Laylee. I mean, it's not a terrible selection of games. Metro Exodus is there, and this is going to start at $5.99 per month. So already they have the cheapest subscription fee there, and there's also an optional controller. You can still use a mouse and keyboard, Xbox One controller, PlayStation 4 controller, but then they also brought the Switch Pro controller, and wait a minute, nope, that is their control. It looks just like the Switch Pro controller. I mean, look at this thing, right? I looked at that and I said, wow, there's a purple, oh wait, nope, that's Amazon's controller. Now there are some differences. Headphone jack, of course, on the bottom. Looks like it has a little microphone button there in the middle as well. I don't know if that's to mute or to actually talk to your controller, but there are some differences. It's just strikingly similar, we'll say. Now they also talk about how it will have Twitch integration, which would make sense. Amazon owns Twitch, so sure, why not? And then they also talk about how there will be channels. Almost like they say there could be genres that you subscribe to for a channel, maybe like an RPG channel. And in there, I guess there'd be other games that you pick from. It's still not 100% clear, and it sounds like something I would have to try out and maybe even have a little demo in front of me showing how they're going to do this and work all these different channels out, but at least sounds different enough, and it sounds better than Stadia. So like Stadia, like Google must have seen this and said, wow, that's not good. This doesn't make us look good, because it's, again, going towards the subscription service that people prefer. $6 a month is good. Now they do say that the service fee will probably go up after they leave early access, so keep that in mind. This is more or less like the price to be a part of the early access beta phase. But it seems promising, at least, and to leverage Twitch makes a lot of sense here. So I guess we'll see how this works out. But one other thing that I noticed that was kind of interesting, they're gonna be on iOS, but the way that they're gonna bypass Apple's weird rules is they are more or less going to act like a Safari browser in that when you launch it, it actually takes your browser and uses that to access their servers and, well, Luna. That's a smart way to do it. They just bypass the App Store completely. In fact, you don't even go through the App Store. It's a non-native app that you use on your iPhone. Now, we are still going to be waiting for Android support as that is coming later, but they figured out how to get on the iPhone. It works on your PC, works on your Fire Sticks, and all of that also works on Apple devices like your laptops and all this. We'll see what Amazon can do here, but yeah, the streaming wars are picking up pretty quick, and I gotta say, Stadia feels like it's getting left behind already. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a new hire at Retro Studios, of course, for Metroid Prime 4. We talk about a lot of hires, right? We just hear them constantly for Metroid Prime 4. I wonder if the expectations for this game are getting like crazy high out of control now. That is gonna be a fun day when they finally show that game. Like I said, people are expecting a lot right now, but let's take a look. Here is the LinkedIn post that was spotted. It was shown over on Reset Era where a person cut and then pasted it there, and you can see the image. And this is for John Marcella, who is now hired as an environment designer for Metroid Prime 4. He did work on God of War and did quite a bit there. He was doing designed layouts, AI scripting, navigation sequences, fight spaces, puzzle designs, more, and then Nintendo Life went back and grabbed all of the different people that have been hired and noted pretty recently even for this game. And we're talking people from Borderlands 3, Halo, Call of Duty Black Ops, Shadow Tomb Raider, Battlefield Hardline, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. There's a lot of people joining up here to make this game. And like I said, expectations are high for this one. I'm expecting a lot myself from it, and I hope, if anything, this gives us that technical showpiece for the Switch. Even if we get that Switch revision, sure, that would be probably the best way to play it, right? We'd assume. But I'm hoping this is Retro at their best and they really show what it can do. I mean, they got a lot out of the GameCube. They got a lot out of the Wii. So yeah, we expect a lot out of Retro. And this is Metroid Prime. This is their game. So here's hoping all this talent comes together and gives us that Metroid Prime 4 game that we would like. But at least we have one confirmation here. Metroid Prime 4 will have environments. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from MK saying, if it comes to the Game Awards, Game of the Year can only be Animal Crossing based on numbers. So, I remember a while ago, PUBG was still in early access and they entered it into the Game of the Year. Do you remember this? We were all like, I thought that's still like an early access game. I don't think it's released yet, but they still put it in. And the reasoning for that was because it was this big phenomenon online. Would you categorize Animal Crossing as a big phenomenon online this year? I mean, I would, right? But those kind of games, those like life simulation or simulation type games, don't typically get nominated for Game of the Year, right? Like you'll see probably Last of Us Part 2, maybe Ghost of Tsushima, right? Maybe Doom Eternal, but Cyberpunk. Like there'll be those kind of games in there, but like a game like Animal Crossing that sold like crazy, was talked about all over the internet, trended like crazy as well for months, even after it came out, right? That'll probably be left to like family game of the year. Even like Microsoft Flight Simulator should probably get something, whether it's visuals, I don't know. But like, let me know what you think about that, because I looked at the comment, I thought about that, and I said, well, we entered PUBG in, but we can't enter Animal Crossing in despite the effect that it had on gaming this year? Let me know what you think about that one. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike, leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether there's that Xbox memory card from Seagate. What do you think about that pricing at $220? It makes sense with the storage options around it for NVMe Gen 4, but it's this little thing for $220. How do you think that's gonna go over with like the mainstream and the moms and dads? Also, what about Mario 3D All-Stars selling like crazy in Japan? Does that surprise you? And then Amazon with their game streaming service Luna. What do you think about that versus something like Stadia or even Game Pass? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.